What's up? How you doing? Here we are. Beautiful day today. Beautiful day. Perfect temperature. Gives you a feeling of well-being inside. You know, that's what it feels like right now. And here we are, Sunday evening. When I was a kid, Sunday evening meant everything was done. School was starting the next day, and you were kind of wrapping up. You didn't have that euphoric feeling like Saturday morning, Friday night. Saturday morning, I'd get up early. I was not a sleep-in kid. I would get up 7 a.m. Saturday morning. Same time I would get up every other day. And, of course, I got up for one thing, Saturday morning cartoons, which kids today do not know about. You know, you can get cartoons anytime now, and they're not that impressive. But back when I was a kid, Saturday morning, that was the time to get up and watch. So, you know, nowadays you're born, you live a little bit, and then all of a sudden there's a computer in your hand. And that's how it goes. When I was a kid, we had none of that. Nobody even knew what that was. So I'd get up early in the morning and I'd watch from 7 o'clock to 2 o'clock cartoons on Saturday. And the last one was Fat Albert. And once that came, I was like, that's it. But at least we have that one. And then after that, I would watch bowling, like 4 o'clock in the evening. I'd watch a little bowling, Earl Anthony, Mark Roth, and you know, it was all right. But Saturdays were very enjoyable to me. My favorite cartoon, Scooby Doo. Look at that, Scooby Doo. The Mystery Machine. Right? Look at that. I wish I had friends like that back then. I wish one of my friends had a van and we would go and debunk haunted house stories. But that didn't exist. This beautiful cartoon, very clever, voice done by Casey Kasem for Shaggy. But it told you the truth. It told you that ghosts are not real and that there is always a logical explanation, always. Just like in the real world. So this is Lipton tea. That's what I'm having right now. Very, very tasty. They have the formula down perfectly. Right formula. Delicious tea. Perfect. For about a couple of minutes I feel British. Or Indian. Indian people have a lot of tea as well, and they make delicious tea and delicious food. You know, I could go for Greek food, Indian food, Mexican food, Japanese food, you know, all different foods from all over the world. But for me, Greek, Mexican, Indian, in no particular order, I could eat all the time. Mexican food, awesome. I go to there was a place downtown that's still there, tacos. They'd cook tons of chicken, chop it up, and then they'd have the, you know, the taco bread there, the taco itself, and then you would have choices between the sauces, and I would pick the hot one, and they would put a ton of chicken, a ton of onions, a ton of cilantro. So many years ago, when I say many years ago, I'm talking like back 1993, 92, 93. I went to this place downtown and I saw that they were making, you know, good looking tacos there, or burritos too. That's what I got, a burrito. And there was a long line. And one day I said, you know what, I'm gonna wait in line. And I waited in line, and it was a disorganized line. You know, it was like people coming this way. So it wasn't like a straight line where you were next and they go next. There was like 5 guys working behind the counter, and then you had to be aggressive enough to tell them you were next. So anyway, I get there, and the guy says to me, what do you want? I said, chicken burrito. And he says, what do you want on it? And I look around, I said, everything to keep it less complicated. So he starts putting things on there, and I didn't know what cilantro was. I had no idea. I never had cilantro prior to that moment. I thought it was parsley he was putting on when I told him everything. And he put the cilantro on, and then he says to me, what kind of sauce do you want? And I said, which one's the hot one? And he says, this one. So I said, put that one. So he put it on there, and I went in the back that there was a table available, and I started eating it. Now, I recognized everything in that burrito except one thing, the cilantro. I had no idea what that was, but I'm one of those people that genetically appreciates cilantro. Some people, they don't like it. They go, oh, that's disgusting. It tastes like a shaving cream or whatever. I can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of it. And to me, cilantro is like, it fixes everything. Every food you add cilantro to, it improves it. Even pie. So, you know, it's like tuba. A tuba in every band would improve that band. The Beatles would have had more #1 hit songs if they had a tuba guy in there. So anyway, I was tasting it, and the more I ate it, the more I enjoyed cilantro. And from that day till now, over 30 years ago, I can't get enough cilantro. I have an addiction to cilantro. So I love Mexican food, and the more cilantro, the better. And onions. And this place made great burritos, very rich in chicken and big. Like, you know, they were made for 2 or 3 people, but they were so delicious that you could eat it all by yourself. So anyway, I'm glad I discovered cilantro, because prior to that I was missing out. I go to Vegas now, I'm the guy that eats all the cilantro. They have to get a guy in the back to cut more cilantro up because I arrived. So, Scooby Doo and the Mystery Machine. Every episode shows you that everything that is like a ghost story always has a logical explanation, and it's always human beings behind it. You know, always. Even Amityville Horror. Amityville Horror, you know, was presented as a real, you know, story about a, what was it, Amityville, New York, Long Island, somewhere there. Poltergeist, real story? No, it was not real at all. It was made up. They admitted to it afterwards. They said they made it up over a couple of bottles of wine in order to make some money, right? But rule of thumb is, if you hear something like that, always, and when I say always, I mean always, there's a logical explanation. If there isn't, it's only because you haven't found it, but it's there. So this was a good cartoon. And the whole thing about it, you know, at the beginning they would have them at the malt shop with that relaxing music, you know, kind of like they were just kicking back, and then they would get some kind of, you know, hint to go somewhere, and it was always an old house, some kind of castle, and they always had this thing here with Freddy driving. This thing's iron. So yeah, I loved it, and it was kind of like you know, realistic, except that it was a cartoon, but it wasn't anything weird about it, you know, that you couldn't duplicate in real life. So that. Then the Incredible Hulk came around. Incredible Hulk. Incredible Hulk. That's enough flat. So, and I'm talking about the Incredible Hulk on television. I remember one night I was home, my father was at work, and he was working late that night, and then the Incredible Hulk was premiering. I didn't know about it, it was just by accident I happened to have it on. In those days, you know, you bumped into things because there were 3 channels that you could only watch, so you just flip back and forth, and I happened to catch this thing, and I was immediately a fan. One thing I never understood is how he was able to get new jobs every week. He had a new job. They never asked, you know, hey, any references here? Where'd you work last month? Where'd you work before? You gotta call these people up, find out what kind of guy you are. No, you'd find him, oh, he's a janitor, oh, he's a medical, you know, supervisor. I don't know, he always had these jobs that, you know, in reality they wouldn't give him. But, you know, race car, it was one where he was in it was like a race car, like Devlin, the what do you call it, the cartoon there, and they had these people helping out. He was part of the help crew for a race car driver. I don't know how he got that job, but every week he had a new job. I don't know how that worked out, but he was able to find new jobs every single week. And he got angry quite often. Nobody gets angry that often to that degree where you have to change into this thing. You know, I get angry if something happens, but I'm not angry like that all the time. Every week he got angry like that a few times. And they should have said, you know what, you have a problem. You have to go get some kind of therapy. You need to relax. Maybe have some chamomile. You know, because you shouldn't be getting angry when you turn into this thing. And the pants. You ever see David Banner? They didn't call him Bruce. That was his middle name on the show. But he was a thin guy. Very thin. Couldn't have weighed more than 130 pounds. This thing looks like it weighs about 300 pounds. And yet the pants, you know, the waist. Now, what they should have had, they should have had him wearing stretchable pants, you know, gym pants that would, you know, really stretch out. You know, everything would tear up except the pants. And I wonder how confused he must have been when he would show up. He was like, okay, I was just somewhere else a second ago, now I'm here, what's going on? And how did he know what to do? You know, they have a scene with him with a baby, holding the baby nice and softly. But it was a good thing to be able to become in case, you know, you were being bullied. And they always threw him in a corner somewhere where they wouldn't notice him transform, usually. There's been a couple of times where somebody would see him. But 99.994% of the time, when he changed into the Hulk, and I mean David Banner, it was just him. They'd throw him down a flight of stairs, they'd throw him somewhere it was dark, and then he'd come out like this. And nobody said, McGee figured it out. He said, I think it's a man who turns into this thing. So he was smart enough. And they picked the right guy to play Mr. McGee. What an annoying person that guy was. Constantly looking and always showing up at the wrong time. But McGee figured it out. But no one else would say, wait a minute, that guy we just beat up, you know, the guy we just threw in that closet, and then this thing came out, they were in the same pants. Might it be that it's like a werewolf, it changes? Didn't figure it out. And then no matter where it happened, anywhere in the country, Jack McGee would show up. Says his paper offers a $10,000 reward for the capture of the Incredible Hulk. That's like trying to capture Bigfoot. Maybe that's what it is. Bigfoot's an actual person and then gets angry and changes into a Bigfoot. But yeah, it was a cool show, and I liked that it wasn't like the movies. Not a fan of those. Those first of all, the creature looks ridiculously big, but secondly, besides that, I don't like the storyline. I prefer that David Banner is a physician, scientist, searching for a way to tap into the hidden strength that all humans have, then get the gamma radiation, which instead of getting some kind of cancer from it, he benefited. He just, you know, got big. But I prefer that narrative of the backstory than the one where he works in the military or something like that, and everybody knows that it's him changing. That never fascinated me. And why the color green? I read one time that it was because when they were drawing him, they only had green available, and they used that. So you would think out of rage you would look red. Good tea. Oh. The Incredible Hulk. And then we had this show here. Lost in Space. You know, look at that. And I didn't know much about this show, but I think when I was in the 6th grade, they started showing reruns of this in my UHF channels. Those are the channels you can't get unless you have a big antenna on top of your roof. This is way back. And my father was always like, yeah, next year we're gonna get that. We're gonna get that big antenna. We never got it. Eventually cable moved into our neighborhood and we ended up getting cable. But we did not have that big antenna on top that looked like you would kind of, have a conversation with the aliens in space. We didn't have that. And I was always trying to get those channels. So in my neighborhood, I would get it good enough where it was a bit snowy, but good enough. And I would get home from school and they used to show reruns, 2 of them. And I'd watch them, and then I got into it, I got into it. It's just, for me it was a better show than, well, Star Wars is awful. I'm not a fan of that at all. But just something about it. It was a family. They were out. They had that nagging Dr. Smith guy. They had this robot that by today's standards does not look sophisticated at all. But back then, this must have been, wow, what a cool robot. So, let's check it out. It's all taped up. Did I say how nice it is out? It's beautiful. They have wires back here. Unnecessary with the wires. Look at this thing. It's a good looking, primitive looking robot. So that. This is the mind of people back in the 50s and 60s. This is what they would come up with. I mean, they didn't even have him with moving legs. They had this tank looking thing in the bottom. And I guess these come off. But I love the show. Anything like that, space travel, I'm a big fan of, because I'm very, very interested in the universe, our existence, where we came from, what is, where did all this matter come from, all these atoms. I find it very strange. Even when I was a kid, I would sit there thinking about what is the universe held inside of. And I want a real answer to that. I don't want this nonsense. Well, it's nothing because it's creating it as it goes. Because the Big Bang happened and then it's creating it and nothing's there. Well, there's got to be something there. There's got to be something there. The only time you give that kind of an answer is when you don't have a real answer. So I want to know what the universe is held inside of, or what it is expanding into. And what is that thing held inside of? And you can play that game all day long. Like, what's that inside of what's that inside? It's not ending. It's not ending. It's a weird concept that we even exist, because the second you start thinking what's next, it never stops. It's like dividing a ruler in half, and that can go on forever. So. But when you start thinking about it, it gets crazy. What is the universe, the observable, what we can see, is under 100 billion light years. So let's say, for example, we're here, and it would be like, 50 billion light years from there to there to there to there. It's less than that, but let's use 50. It's around 42, right? 42 billion light years each way. But once you get to that event horizon, once you get to that point where you can see from here, it keeps going after that. It's not like you hit a wall there and you're like, oh, where are we? We're inside something. No, it keeps going. And even if you were able to find the end of that, there's got to be something after that, and after that, and after that. It's. I remember being a kid and thinking, imagine if there was nothing, and I mean nothing, not even empty space, which for me is very hard to imagine. I mean, what is nothing minus empty space? The only thing I can imagine is nothing but empty space being there, like a void. As many times I sit and I think, you know, how strange it is that the universe is here, and how many other realities exist that we don't know about. You know, we only know about this one because we're born into it. But imagine if there's other realities that exist that aren't even in the same realm as this one. I mean, in other words, you can't even get to it no matter how fast you travel, not because of the distance, but because it's not part of this reality that we're in. So, you know, and who would know that? Who would know it? I mean, okay, we know the universe exists, but you don't know if other realities exist that have nothing to do with the universe, or unrelated. They're not based on atoms and molecules. They're based on something totally unimaginable. So, but I've always been fascinated with that, the universe, shows like this. I hate Star Wars, though. I can't stand, I don't find Lucas to be a good director. You know, he may be, but for me, I don't find any. A lot of people say, oh, great director. I don't like that style. You know, I like Martin Scorsese. I like Francis Ford Coppola, great wine. You know, I like those kind of guys. Quentin Tarantino. But Star Wars, I don't know. It's not appealing to me. Everything about it. I like. If I go and watch it now, like somebody said to me, "Hey, listen, let's go watch it. Give it another shot." And I went in there. You know what? My mind would zone out. I wouldn't even pay attention to it. I'd be thinking about something else. So it's just like an automatic thing. It shuts it off. It finds it boring. Star Trek I can watch. You know, it's not my favorite show, but I can watch, and I think because of the theme. I enjoy the weirdness of the theme at the beginning. That high-pitched opera singing there. Anyway, so very cool robot.
From now on, I would appreciate it if you would call me Golden Boy.
It's Golden Boy.
From now on, I would appreciate it if you would call me Golden Boy.
That's it? You don't say anything else? I always find that reading the directions helps. Oh, there's something here, but...
From now on, I would appreciate it if you would call me Golden Boy. From now on, I would appreciate it if you would call me Golden Boy.
Got battery somewhere here. I guess it's the... Oh, I see. What's this?
Watch it. I do not like grubby finger stains on my new suit of gold.
Wow.
From now on, I would appreciate it if you would call me Golden Boy. In my opinion, it is not Professor Robinson who needs psychiatric treatment. It is his doctor.
Very cool. Very cool. Oh, even the... I guess in the old days, when they were trying to show futuristic computers and stuff, they thought lights were going to be the key thing. And you watch a $6 Million Man, and he's sitting there in OSI offices, and there's all these mainframes, and they all have blinking lights. You know, what is the point of the blinking lights? You know, when you get an Apple today, you don't have all these blinking lights. So I guess back then they said, hey, add the lights on and it'll make it look like it's from the future. Like this guy, look at this, just blinking lights. So that's how it goes. Even the head has blinking lights. Very cool. I mean, I guess in those days they could only, the hands, they open up. Look at that. In those days, this is what the mind would come up with. A big bucket in the middle. Looks like something from the oil companies. You cut it down, make it into that. And then you had something that was into the shape of legs, but they were all rubberized. And then you had a tank system, you know, like Abrams tank, the tracks. That's how he moved. That's why I didn't get stuck anywhere. But they're narrow enough where if you hit a stone on this, you tip over like that. And then who knows how much this thing weighs. Will Robinson could not lift this thing. So, like I said, I enjoyed this show. And then there was a kind of like a funny, it was supposed to be funny, a funny show called the Lost Space Nuts. That Denver guy that played Gilligan there, Bob Denver. No, Bob Denver was John Denver. John Denver was the singer. Bob Denver was the Gilligan. So they were on that, and they were like maintenance guys or something. They were cleaning the rocket that was going to go into space, and then they got hungry, and they all right, let's get some lunch. And they hit the lunch button, only it wasn't the lunch button, it was the launch. And they got launched, they got lost in space, they ended up on some weird planets. Once again, I want to say, where's the logic on that show? I mean, how far did they travel where they bumped into another planet? I mean, our solar system is so big that in order to get to the next planet, you'd have to go for, you know, depending on the lineup of the planets, you may have to be traveling for like 4 years. And no food, limited food. I mean, I know they stacked the food at the beginning, but anyway, I used to watch that, and they would end up in these weird places with weird beings. You know, the shows that I watched only look weird. They only look weird now because we have reference. We have references now. You look at things and you go, yeah, well, that's not the way it turned out. Computers look different. So they look ridiculous. But back then, when we watched, or when my generation was watching these things, they didn't think that they looked ridiculous. We thought that they were right on. I'm sure when this show came out, I'm sure when people saw the robot, they were, yeah, that looks futuristic. That looks like, you know, the way it's going to be in the future, which is redundant what I just said, but you get the idea. Now when you look at it, you know, looks ridiculous. And then he had no fingers. He had these LAPD.
Watch it. I do not like grubby finger stains on my new suit of gold. From now on, I would appreciate it if you would call me Golden Boy.
And we finally have arrived where cars drive themselves. Up until a few years ago, you would tell somebody that and they would say, oh, that's a long way. That's not happening anytime soon. Maybe 20, 30 years from now. No, it's happening right now as we speak. Was it Waymo? They have them here in LA. Call it up with the app. It'll show up. You get in. There's no driver. It's you, and it takes you wherever you want to go. So that exists as I speak right now. Where 5 years ago, if you had said that, everybody was like, "Ah, it's a long way from now. It's not happening." Not a long way. Can you imagine how it's going to be here on this planet 300, 400, 500 years from today? And people talk about aliens being unable to visit us because of the distances. Once again, we're thinking in our reality how it is. Let's suppose an alien is 10,000 years more advanced than us. Can you imagine the technology they would have at 10,000 years beyond where we are? Yeah, the distances are crazy for us. But for something that's 10,000 years more advanced than us, or a million years more advanced, I mean, picture a civilization a billion years ahead of us. You can't even imagine what that would look like. It may not even be a civilization that's based in like we are, animals. It may be something like what these things are, artificial. And then all of a sudden they become, I know they've made movies about that, and I know Isaac Asimov, has mentioned things like that, but I mean, if you think about it, anything a billion years ahead of us would be crazy advanced. And then for us to say at this point, well, there can't be anything out there because the distances are so vast that can visit us. Now, that's how we are. We can't visit things because we're not advanced, but something out there that's 1,000 years ahead of us, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, a million, what they are like would be unimaginable to us. So, got a couple of snacks here. Loker. I love these things. They're wafers. This is dark chocolate. I'm a big fan of dark chocolate. I can't tell you how much of it I can eat. Dark chocolate, the good kind. I don't mean something made by Nestle or Nabisco. They make good chocolate, but I'm talking about something top-end chocolate. Dark, maybe some almonds in there. I can't stop eating dark chocolate. And then we have another one here, same company, but this is hazelnut, which I am also a fan of. So first I'm going to try the dark chocolate. I have the scissors here. A lot easier with the scissors than trying to bust it open by hand. Delicious. So good. I highly recommend this. Try the hazelnut. Very good. I might even say this one is slightly better for me. Everything is subjective. I like people say, oh, that song sucks, that song's awesome. Yeah, for you. For you, I may hear the same thing and agree, or I may hear the same song and disagree. All that stuff, everything is subjective. Everything. Maybe certain physical things aren't. I say, oh, the ground is solid, or, this table is whatever, 3 feet tall. Things like that are not subjective. But other things are. Yeah, pretty good. I wish I had more tea to go with it. There's a little bit. It's not like Maxwell House, good to the last drop. This is good, but it's good, but not enough. Anyway, that's it for now. Ciao.